Back with us on the Sports Mag Zone, the newly minted 100 and 200 meters champion in Jamaica, Shericka Jackson, has ambitions of breaking the 34-year-old world record of 21.34 seconds set by American Florence Griffith Joyner in 1988. Jackson produced a stunning 21.55 seconds, a personal best on Sunday, to beat Elaine Thompson-Herah and Shelley Ann Fraser-Price en route to taking the 200 meters title at Jamaica's national trials. Among women, only Griffith Joyner and Thompson-Herah, 21.53, have ever gone faster over 200 meters. Now, the 27-year-old Jackson then told reporters on Sunday that there's room for improvement, as she had made some technical errors in the race. When asked about her capacity to break the world record, she said simply this: "I have 3 weeks. Nothing more, nothing additional." Now, the World Championships in Eugene, Oregon start on July 15, 3 weeks from now. So, Lance, as we start this discussion, we're going to have Leighton Levy. Well, we have Leighton Levy as well, so the question ought properly should be put to him, our track and field expert, senior writer at sportsmax.tv as well. Leighton, good afternoon, first of all.
Hey, George, long time. How are you doing?
Yes, I overheard you telling Lance in the setup that it was raining outside, and I quipped to him, well, can it rain on the inside, Lance, I wonder?
It all depends on which house you're in.
You are so right, because many of us grew up in homes, Leighton, where when it rained outside, it also rained inside.
Rained inside.
All right, let's get to the serious stuff now, my friend. Does Shericka have the speed? Will she have the speed in 3 weeks to eclipse Flo Jo in the record books?
I think so, but it's more than just the speed that she's going to require if she's going to challenge that record. There are a couple of things that are in her favor right now. That 21.55 was run with 0 wind. With a 1.5 wind, I calculated today, she would have run about 21.41. That puts her just under 1/10 of a second outside the existing world record. That 1/10 might sound like a small number, but in real terms, it's as good as a mile, because there are so many things that have to go right for her to then get to 21.33 or below to break that record of 21.34 that was set back in 1988.
Yeah. So you say, well, clearly speed is the best place to start, because if you get the perfect conditions and you don't have the speed, you can forget about it. With the speed, even if the conditions are testy, you still have a chance. What do you imagine that her training and preparation regime will be from here till the starter calls them forward for that first run in Oregon?
All right, so here's the thing. She would have had to have started up some kind of tapering process for her to run the times that she ran at national championships. Because to run 10.77, and it could have been faster had there not been that delay at the start of the 100. So let's give her 10.67, okay? Since that's a very common time this year, and that's something that was very realistic in what she could have run at the national championships. The thing is, George, if you compare the records from Flo Jo's record in 1988 until now, you're looking at, let me just give you some breakdown as to what that 200 meter 21.34 looked like. Flo Jo covered the first 50 in 6.29. She got to the 100 in 11.18. 4.92 seconds later, she was at 150, so that was 16.10, before closing in 5.24 to complete the world record of 21.34. If you remember, Grace Jackson was in that race, and she came second in 21.72, just outside the previous world record of 21.71. Let me give you Grace Jackson's breakdown. 6.32 for the first 50, 11.32 for the 100, 16.38 for the 150, and of course, finishing at 21.72, which was for a time the national record. Now, the thing is, for Shericka Jackson to get to 21.33, there are a couple of phases that have to be right. I think she's quick enough to get the first 100, which is about 11.18. If we're using the current world record as a benchmark, 11.18. If she gets to 11.18, then she has to close in just over 10 seconds to get to that world record, to get faster than that world record. The thing is, that third 150 I was trying to get the splits for her times on Saturday, but I wasn't able to get them in time. I'm hoping to get them still. She's going to have to get somewhere about 4.9 and closing about 51.20 to break that world record. Can she do it? I think she can, but there are a couple of factors that we have to put into context here, George. When Flo Jo set that world record, she had a couple of days to recover from the 100 when she ran that suspect 10.49. Regardless, it's history now, so let's just say, okay, she ran at 10.49. So those legs would have been tired. So, but she gets a couple of days to rest. The reality is that Shericka's 200-meter campaign in Oregon starts the next morning after the 100 meters, which will be intense because this is possibly going to be as deep a field as we saw in Tokyo, Japan last year. Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, 10.67, likely to go faster. Elaine Thompson here at 10.79, likely to go faster. Kambunji, 10.89, likely to go faster. And, of course, the Americans.
But hold on, Leighton, hold on. Not to break your train of thought. I'm happy you went there because I've been saying to myself, and I don't know if a mind even like yours and your knowledge of the sport can account for this. But here's the thing, Leighton. I've been telling people that, look, yes, the speed of the athlete and the conditions are of primary importance. However, notice how the men, the fastest men and women, over time have run their best times, are coming in fields. You go to the starting line, Leighton, and you're already assured that you can dominate the men and women next to you. These are different times. You are going in there with the anxiety of knowing if you are a toe slow out of leaving those blocks. Not even record. You could be beaten. You could be off the medal podium. So with that pressure, and I'm saying people don't give account for the level of competition that is around people chasing these records and what that does to the psyche and what that does to the final time, because we often think that persons are racing the clock. It's not so. You're racing high-level rivals, and it's easy. Well, it's not easy, but it's one thing to saunter away from rivals you know you have the measure of. It's quite another thing running against women who you know that if you sneeze at any point, you're going to lose a medal, much less the attempt at the world record.
Absolutely, because, look, the semifinals are running three semifinals now. The top two and, of course, the next two fastest times will advance to the final. It is likely that in the 100 meters, Shericka Jackson will most likely draw one of Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, Elaine Thompson-Herah, Kambunji, one of the Americans, somebody, Talu, who are going to force them to run faster than they would have liked to get into that final. Then you have to go back to the final 90 minutes later and then put it all together again to beat a deep field where most likely every single woman in that final will be under 10.9 seconds this year. So it does have a wear and tear effect. And then the recovery time is not significant because the campaign for the 200 begins the very next day. So you're going into the 200 campaign with already tired legs. And of course the training is preparing you for that. But then the physicality of the requirements, the tension of the moments, and just the sheer stress of being able to handle all of that and then deliver your best performance. All of those are factors that people don't consider but the reality is the athlete is not running these races in isolation. They're running against the very best in the world.
Yeah, and Leighton, can you put an assessment again for me on the 21:55? Because it is a fact that the national stadium conditions, when the rain falls and then there is, and it stops, and sprinters take the track an hour or two after that, the track really is fast. So even though you made the point, which is a good one, that there was zero wind and not a tailwind to assist her to go faster, the track apparently would have been pretty fast on Sunday, wasn't it?
It would have been, yes, because there is a theory that the slightly damped track is able to push back even more energy to the athletes when they're sprinting. And of course, as you take into consideration also those new spikes as well, which also help in that regard as well. So yes, that is a factor. And of course, what a lot of people don't realize that the track in Kingston is one of the fastest in the world. When you look at the times that are run at track in the National Stadium in Kingston, they rival Berlin, they rival Tokyo, the times rivals Oregon. So it's not like they're coming from a slow track to a very fast track in Oregon, which in most instances, the numbers don't add up to say that Oregon is much significantly faster than any other fast tracks in the world. So the advantage for the track is not that significant, if any at all. So it's going to come down to execution. You heard Shericka Jackson say she made a number of mistakes in that race, and she probably did. She knows better than most what those mistakes were. So she's going to have to run a near perfect race in near perfect conditions to be able to get that record. If she does get, I think she'll go close, but does she break it? I am not particularly completely sold on the idea that she will, but I do believe that she could come close.
Yeah, there is no question that Shericka Jackson is the topic here, and no question she won with a lot of authority on Sunday, beating Elaine Thompson-Herah and Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price. But we have to remember too, Leighton, that Elaine Thompson-Herah ran faster last year in Tokyo than Shericka ran on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Where is Elaine Thompson-Herah in all of this discussion? Because she has shown herself to be a championship performer, and even though she looked a few meters behind Shericka on Sunday, how good will she be in Eugene, Oregon?
I think she could be a lot faster, and here's why. Last year when she ran a national championship, I do believe that the 22:05 is pretty close to the time that she ran a national championship last year. The thing is that there was more time between the national championships and when the Olympics began last year. So she had time to recover from the Achilles issues, and of course then get fit enough in time to run in Tokyo.
Yeah, she had about 5 weeks. She had about 5 weeks.
Yeah, she had about 5 weeks. So here's the thing. This time, as she told me after the race when I was talking to her, not the public here, where I was interviewing her after the race itself, she said, I asked her that very question. I said, last year you had Achilles issues and you weren't 100%. You know, what are you feeling about where you will be in 3 weeks, given where you are? No, she said, the big difference is that this year she's a lot healthier, she's a lot stronger. And her husband then chimed in and said, she's going to be ready. What we saw in the 200, well, let me just add one more element. When I spoke to her, she said her mind was not, because of the delay that caused her not to be where she wanted to be in the 100, because she said she wanted to lay down a marker to show Jamaica that she was in good shape. The delay, she said, had her feeling flat, and you saw that in the race. How often do you see Brianna Williams lead Elaine Thompson up to 75 meters in any race? So you saw that she was flat. And of course, she said she couldn't find the energy to usually get that drive that she usually got. She said afterwards that she was just going to run the 200 to qualify. She wasn't pressing for any particular time. She wasn't pressing to win. Her primary objective for the 200 was just to qualify. And I do believe that I think you saw some of that in the 200. I don't think she pressed all the way in the 200. And so she did enough to qualify. So with additional tapering in the next 3 weeks, you know, she's on some kind of a short vacation now before she starts her final preparation because, of course, as you know, today's her birthday. She turns 30 today. I think we could see her approach the times that she ran last year. The only trouble is, I think, that Shericka Jackson will be a little bit ahead still, given what we saw from her on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm getting the impression from what you're saying, Leighton, that Shericka Jackson is unbeatable at the moment.
Well, it appears that way. When you run 21:55, which is at 0.26 faster than the 21:81 that you with your best in Zurich last year, and you're looking like an athlete ready to run even faster, given the conditions under which you ran that 21:55, you would have to make Shericka Jackson the easy favorite for the 200-meter final in Oregon, notwithstanding anything unforeseen, because she looked really imperious on Saturday. I mean, Sunday, sorry, Shericka Jackson looks like somebody who it's her race to lose, as opposed to anybody upsetting her in Oregon.
Yep. Leighton, you know, the last thing to say is this. Given where we are, the 3 Jamaicans have advertised their well-being in not just at the national trials, but what they've done since the start of the season. The Americans just had their trials. We know the strengths of the other women. Could it be a situation again where the women will be the talk of the World Championships, or are the men sufficiently fast in the short sprint to rival them for the headlines in a way that they could not do in Tokyo, where it was all about the women?
I think it's going to be pretty similar to what we saw in Tokyo. I think Jamaica has potentially 2 medals in the 200 women. I think they'll go 1, 2, 3 in the 100 again, because I don't see anybody that's going to be doing anything in the next 3 weeks that will break up that triumvirate of the Jamaican sprinters. Now, the big question for those 3 women, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, Elaine Thompson, and Shericka Jackson, is who will end up on the top of the podium with the gold medal and, of course, silver, bronze. For the sprint hurdles, I think when you look at Brittany Anderson, you have to believe that she has a shot of winning a medal. And I wouldn't write off Megan Simmons either, given what we saw from her. She brings her A game when it matters most. For the men, I think Johan Blake and Oblique Seville have a shot at a medal in the 100. And of course, the 4x1 relay, now that we have a solid team putting together with the likes of Conroy Jones and Kemar Bailey Cole, who are now 10 flat, 10.06 athletes. I think Jamaica has a really strong chance of being on the podium for the 4x1 men, 4x4 men as well. And of course, Hansel Parchment in the 110 hurdles. I think the men will pretty much be on par, a little bit better than they were in Tokyo last year. But I think the women, the 4x4, I think the women, I think they have a chance of medaling in the flat 4, the 4x4 relay, the sprint hurdles for women, and of course the 100 and the 200. I think it'll be pretty much a similar reflection of what we saw in Tokyo last year, with the men having a little bit better chance of more medals, but I think the women will still be ahead of them in terms of the medals actually gained.
Thank you very much, my friend. All the best to you. Always a pleasure. We'll talk again.
Take it easy, guys.
Good. Break time here on the Sports Max Zone. Back with more. Thank you for watching Sportsmax on YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and to click the notification bell to stay informed.